It isn't a secret that the transplant list is crazy long, and some people unfortunately don't make it long enough to be eligible for one. However, that doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of success stories out there. And some of these stories, on top of having a happy ending, have some absolutely crazy details that are very hard to believe. Whether it's a revolutionary transplant that's never been done before, or if it's the circumstances around the transplant itself, the stories on this list are absolutely insane, and it's for sure gonna make me say, is this real life right now? How's it going, YouTube? I'm your host for this one, Landon Do Not Sing, and welcome back to another Most Amazing Top 10 video. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. If you guys are new here, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe with the bell notification on. That way, as soon as we make a video for you guys will be notified right away. And let me know in the comment section below what video you guys would like to see next. And also, should we post more videos on this channel? Like, do you want to see a fourth or a fifth video a day? Do you guys want us to work overdrive? I know a lot of you guys are home in isolation. You guys are bored. So that's why I'm kind of pitching the idea of putting out more content for you guys. All right, let's get into this one. This is the top 10 scariest successful organ transplants you won't believe. Starting off this list like we always do. And at number 10 is a 60-person kidney transplant chain. This story is basically the kidney version of paying for the order of the person behind you in the Tim Hortons drive-thru. I know I've done that a few times. You pay for the person's order behind you, you drive away, they never know it's you, and you feel good about yourself. But think of that, but 30 times in a row. Well, in February of 2012, a transplant chain that involved 30 donors and 30 recipients was finally completed. It began with a man who donated his kidney to someone who needed it. The recipient's niece originally wanted to donate her own kidney to her uncle, but wasn't compatible, so she donated it to someone else in need, as a way to pay it forward. This began the longest transplant chain in history, and as far as I can tell, all patients recovered from the surgeries. Next up on this list is a 6-organ transplant, and this comes in at number 9. In 2008, doctors discovered that a 5-year-old patient had cancer in her abdomen and also reaching to 6 of her organs. The only way that they were able to save her life was by performing an operation not only to remove the tumor, but also to provide a transplant for those affected organs. Thankfully, the historic surgery was successful, and the little girl ended up getting a new stomach, liver, spleen, small intestine, pancreas, and part of an esophagus. This also happened to be the first esophagus transplant ever performed, and that's as far as we were able to reach with our extensive research. Well, this patient continues to be cancer-free, and her body has not rejected any of the organs. Coming in at number 8, we have a womb transplant. Back in 2011, a woman by the name of Dura Sert received a transplant of a womb from another woman who passed away. Sert has been born without a uterus and therefore unable to get pregnant. This was the first time a transplant like this has been done successfully, and a few years later in 2014, Sert gave birth to a healthy baby boy. I can't even begin to imagine how excited and happy she must be, finally being able to call herself a mother after everything that she's gone through. Number 7 spot on this list goes to a toe to thumb transplant. Is this real life right now? What the heck did I just say? A toe to thumb transplant? Well, this one sounds pretty crazy to me. Let me know if it sounds crazy to you guys, but I understand how it would seriously help some people. Surgeons have developed a way to transplant parts of somebody's big toe, ligaments, bones, tendons, arteries, and even skin, and place it onto their thumb and create some sort of Franken thumb. A lot of people would prefer to have a fully functional hand than a big toe, which, you know what, it makes sense to me. One patient who underwent the surgery said that his new thumb looked like a cartoon thumb, one that's been hit by a mallet. But he's just happy that he's able to use his hand normally now, or as normal as possible. Next up, number 6 is a fully synthetic transplant. With the evolution of science and technology, we may have a future where donors are no longer needed for some transplants. One patient received a trachea transplant that was entirely man-made and custom-made for him. Doctors created a windpipe-shaped scaffold, and he made it out of a porous polymer and aligned it with the patient's stem cells. These stem cells multiplied and created tissues around the polymer. And because these tissues were created with the man's very own DNA, he didn't have to worry about rejecting the synthetic trachea. The transplant ended up being a huge success and have made doctors hopeful for a world where we can do a similar process with, human heart and other organs. Filling up the middle slot on this list, we have another woman's kidney. This story is almost too outlandish to be true, but here we are. A woman had to start having dialysis 3 times a week after her kidney stopped working. Pretty scary. Well, during this time, her husband started having an affair with another woman. Once the wife found out, instead of being mad, she asked for her husband to marry the other woman once she dies. In a twist of events, the other woman offered her kidney to the wife and promised to take care of her while she was healing. The wife said, after the fact, we shared a husband, now we share a kidney. I mean, this is a really weird situation to get into. All right, next up on this list, number 4, we have a poop transplant. Okay, I didn't even realize that this was possible. I'm not sure the reasoning for this until I looked into it. And I honestly say that I've never thought about this being an option for anybody. Well, you know what? On a serious note, one patient was suffering from a gut infection called Clostridium difficile. This left her wheelchair bound and having to wear diapers all the time. Because she suffered from constant diarrhea as a result, doctors originally put her on antibiotics, but after those didn't work, it was decided that she needed a transplant, specifically a stool transplant. Doctors mixed a sample of her husband's stool with saline solution, transplanted it into her colon, and somehow this healed the infection and everything went back to business as usual. Coming in number 3 is a self-grown face transplant. Face transplants are starting to become more and more common, but usually you hear about the face of a deceased person being transplanted onto somebody else. But have you guys ever heard of somebody growing their own new face? Well, after being disfigured in a fire when she was young, this woman needed a face transplant using tissues from her own chest and also blood vessels on her legs and a balloon to stretch the skin. Doctors successfully grew a new face transplant on the woman's chest. The entire operation was a success, and she's even able to blush again, which isn't usually possible in face transplants. Next up, number 2 is a transplant changing a blood type. When it comes to transplants, patients usually have to worry about rejections or incompatibility in blood type. However, the entire opposite situation happened to one woman who had to get a liver transplant. Prior to the transplant, she had O negative blood. After the surgery, her condition began to worsen and doctors were afraid she was rejecting the liver. After running tests, it was found that her body actually fully accepted the new liver, but it was in fact rejecting her blood. As it turns out, the transplant, well, it actually changed her blood type to O positive, matching the liver. The problem was resolved simply by taking her off the immunosuppressant drugs, and her body is now fully happy with the new liver and the new blood type. And finally, taking the number 1 spot on this list is the personality transplant. If you haven't seen the show Chambers on Netflix, I suggest you guys go watch it because it's basically the horror story version of this case. After a woman had to get a heart and lung transplant, she noticed a lot of aspects of her personality changing. She began craving beer, green peppers, and junk food, and her favorite color suddenly changed from pink to blue and green. And she even started having dreams about motorcycle accidents and a man named Tim L. She started digging for answers and found out that the man who donated his organs was named Tim L. Tim Lamored, and he had died in a motorcycle accident that mirrored the dream that she was having. And I wonder what his favorite color was. Yeah, well, she even dreamt of 22 motorcycles on the night before. I know a lot of people are skeptical of cellular memory, but this case seems way too accurate and bizarre to ignore. And of course, make sure you guys go watch Chambers on Netflix to relate to that one. Well, there you guys have it. That was the top 10 scariest successful organ transplants you won't believe. Thank you guys so much for watching. I was your host for this one, Landon Do Not Sing, and I'll see you guys all in the next most amazing top 10 video.